Hey, warriors. So, there's a lot of noise in the world right now. Opinions, outrage, fear, identity wars, everyone trying to be right, wanting to be right, everyone wanting to be heard. But love has gone quiet. And not because it's weak, but because it doesn't scream for attention. And right now, love doesn't need defenders, it needs voices. You know, but voices that are, embodied ones, honest ones, human ones. You understand? Um so today I want to talk about love. Not as a concept, not as a quote, not as something you give after you're healed, but as something, you become. Um so anyway, love, it's not soft like people think, it's stable. When we've been taught that love is passive, right? That it's, gentle words, good intentions, if you will, right? But real love, it's stability, like I was saying. It's, the love is a nervous system that can stay open without collapsing. Love is, the heart that doesn't harden when we're disappointed, right? It's strength, strength to stay present, without needing to dominate or disappear. It doesn't need to prove itself, It doesn't posture, it doesn't perform. It just stands, right? You know? Um and that's why the world is starving for it right now. Because fear already has a voice. Ego already has one. Um Trauma already has one. And I'm not saying love doesn't need to be louder than fear, you know? Um it just needs to be clearer, you know? Um and that kind of love, a clear love, it says I see you without needing to fix you. Um I can disagree with you and still recognize your humanity. I can hold my boundaries without closing my heart. And right now, people, it's not that people aren't lacking information. Okay, we've all had information to last ourselves a lifetime. You know, we're lacking regulation. We're lacking safety. We're lacking felt love. You understand? Um, and love doesn't come from convincing, it comes from being, right? I don't know. And I believe, that self love is the foundation You know, people misunderstand self-love, I think. You know, they think it's affirmations, they think it's indulgence. You know, they think that it's ego sometimes. But self-love is actually self-responsibility. You know, it's the moment when you stop abandoning yourself to be accepted. You know, it's when you stop asking others to regulate your emotions. You know, um, it's when you no longer need someone to confirm your worth. I don't know. Self love is not, you know, saying I'm perfect. It's saying, you know, I'm with myself, you know, I'm with myself even when I'm learning, even when I'm wrong. Um, and from that place, you know, love for others becomes clean. You know, not needy anymore, not attached, not, you know, transactional, just present. Here's the truth no one likes to talk about. If you don't, you know, and I've said this before in videos, the whole if you don't love yourself, you know, you don't love others. And I've learned that is true, you know, because when you don't love yourself, you're not loving others, you're attaching them, you know. Um, you need them to, you know, validate you, to choose you, to stay, to save you. But that's not love, you know, that's survival. And survival love always comes with conditions. Real love, you know, says, I choose you, but I don't lose myself. You know, I can love you without needing to control you. I can walk away without hatred, which is a really hard thing for people to do. Um, that kind of love, though, you know, only comes from being whole. You know, it comes from wholeness. And another love that I believe that is needed right now, you know, is love is leadership right now. You know what I mean? Not dominance, you know, not authority, not hierarchy, leadership through regulation, you know, leadership through presence, you know, emotional honesty, that kind of thing. Because when you stay grounded in chaos, you teach safety without saying anything, right? You know, you don't need to say a damn word. But when you refuse, you know, or when you also, you know, refuse to dehumanize others, you remind others who they are, you know? And I think we all need a little reminding of who we really are to our core. And that's love. But when you don't, you know, when you don't take the bait, you disrupt cycles. That's love with a voice, in my opinion, anyway. You know, speaking love today, you know, doesn't mean bypassing pain. It doesn't mean pretending, you know, everything is okay. It doesn't mean silence. It means telling the truth without the cruelty, you know, holding boundaries without punishment, offering compassion without betraying yourself, you know. Love today is not about saving the world, I guess, it's about stopping that bleed. I don't know. But we need to do this, one regulated, nervous system at a time, one honest heart at a time, one embodied human at a time. Yeah. Anyway, if you're feeling called to speak love right now, it's not because you think you're better than anyone, it's because you've learned, what happens when love is absent, right? I mean, is that not a lesson we've all been learning, especially recently? You know? Um, but your voice doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be true. That's all we need right now. I mean, it's not all we need right now, but all of us need truth, especially right now after all the, you know, bullshit. But start with yourself, stay with yourself and let love move through you, not as performance, but as presence, right? Because the world doesn't need louder fucking voices right now. It needs steadier hearts. I guess that's all I gotta say. I love you, legends.